Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I want to first thank some of the speakers before me. I was very glad to hear that efforts are underway to preserve and re-evaluate the old vestiges of the past, especially the Sahara Desert where I live. And whenever I take a journey through the desert, which I will do after this conference, it is from Switzerland to Mauritania, at least 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers. I make it a point, out of respect, to stop and revel in the old messages, those vestiges, those architectural remnants of the past, which have been there for a long time. And I have the gratitude for our ancestors who had a different time. And these are markers of a different time. And that comes to my mind because everybody could just notice we live also in the tyranny of time. And it frightens my heart. And my heart is trembling. And actually, the analogy comes of this watchtower looking down on the Kaaba of my heart. And that makes me shake. Two girls among the student body yesterday promised me to get me a tasbih. And they just gave it to me before I came up here. It's Allah's hand. And they said, it took us one full day to find the tasbih in all of Marcus and the shops nearby. One full day. And that is a sign of our times. I'm, of course, also intimidated because the speakers here are extremely eloquent. And I'm not a master of Arabic. However, it is a very beloved language of mine. Probably the most beautiful language that Allah has created. And I take time with words of Arabic. So when I say about the tyranny of the watch, one has to know, I'm coming from Switzerland, and now we are under this tyranny of the watch. And the word watch directly derives from the Arabic word waqt. What do we watch? What does it imply about the waqt? If we turn the syllables around, it will be taqwa. That is the meaning of watching within the heart. Watching within. That is a very, very important point. How could you pass the moments of time and forget about why these moments of time arrive into your heart at the first place? At the first place. And it makes me tremble. I know I can feel it. It makes me tremble how much mankind has already, to a large extent, been enslaved by this new concept of time. The Swiss people invented the watch. And by the way, I'm just saying an anecdote from my village. We were boys, and we're a watchmaking village. And there was a solar dial, an old-fashioned way to measure time. And it said on that building, Allah has created the time. Of course, it's said in German. But of hurry he did not speak. And that is you know, the natural fitra of the people of that mountain village of which I am a son, and which was nothing but paradise. So maybe you would ask yourself, why is this fellow going into the desert? Oh, we see there are some pictures from where I live. I created that in the desert. That's why I also thank, because it's my larger vicinity that these people make an effort to preserve the Muslim vestiges of the past. I'm building anew, because Mauritania basically has no buildings in the north. It's only tents. The culture, the history is tents, nomadic tents. So I'm also using, and I'm very glad to hear that, I'm using the basic materials of the ground. All of that was found right on the ground between the sand dunes. We have adobe, mud, very humble material of which, by the way, we are made. We also, human beings, are made of that same material. So I have great respect for that. But as you can see in the pictures, on top there is some cement structure because of the rain, and the adobe in the desert where we are is not that good. But however, all the walls are made of adobe. I just want to give you a small story. It's just a story. When I returned from Hajj, I was on the ship called Salam, and some of you may know that this ship drowned with probably over 1,500 passengers on board. May Allah have pity with them. I was in first class on top. It's just a story. So the privileged people there, they were luminaries of science, a doctor of meteorology, oceanography, ocean science, a lawyer for the law of the sea, astronomer to give the way, to know the direction. They were all there, and they were all lauding their science, their approach, their scientific way of discerning things. And unfortunately, as you know, that boat drowned. And when it's just a story. I lived half of it, and the last part is the story. So when these people became aware that the ship is about to drown, they were stricken with fear, and their faces were dismayed. First class, top level, top deck, and it finally sank. And then they say, we can't swim. And the deckhand runs in and said, it's time to go overboard. Oh, we can't swim. And the boy says, so sorry for you, for all your studies. Why did you not study swimology? Swimology. And it would be my intimate wish that the Department of Swimology could be established in this wonderful place called Marcus in Cairo, Allah. That would be my sincere wish. Now, if I'm given a few more minutes, I will show you the scientific underpinnings of such a department of swimology. I was asked by a doctor participant, oh, you're from Switzerland. Oh, the Scandinavian countries, they all have this very high level, and United Nations churns out an index each year, the happiness and well-being index of the top nations to the lowest nations. So I'm in the top nation, mashallah, but I did go to a nation which is nowhere near the top. And for what reason? When you look at this index of the UNDP, it is very heavily flawed, and it is deeply false, and it is actually very, very offensive to a Muslim heart. How did they measure their index of well-being? First, it's materialistic to the core, GDP. And then second, things like expenditures for education, their education, and expenditures for healthcare, and for several other factors. Now, it is by no means an indication if you have to spend a lot of money on health that the people are healthy. They may actually be very sick, and they are very sick in the Western world. The children are very sick. And if you have suicide prevention units, it adds to the GDP. It's a cost factor, and it will be factored into the GDP. Somebody makes money with it.
2 minutes.
Okay. So, alcohol is so big chunk of the GDP. So I would propose to you to adopt an institute of happiness at this very beautiful Marcus, with all these wonderful scientific facilities, at the Institute of Advanced Scientific Studies. And what would it contain? What would it contain? It would contain a different happiness and well-being index factored on different criteria. And as an anthropologist, what is the one criteria which shows that the human being is happy? Even embedded in the fitra, this is the one criteria, it is the smile. And now we have billions of pictures available of different people. We can quantify these things in that institute. We can change the criteria. And it's a big chance for the Muslim world to have a say about where they feel they should be going. And if you see all these smiling and unsmiling pictures for the most part, I bet you will see that countries like Togo, Ghana, Liberia, Mali, Mauritania, they will be on top. And that's not a joke. It will be taken as a joke first. I give another very short example. There is another Swiss scientist. He went to the University of Seattle. And what he proposed to the university, he proposed, let's invent the ecological footprint. That is a misery index of the world. 7 Earths are needed to maintain the lifestyle of Americans. 3 globes, 3 Earths, 3 planets are needed to maintain the lifestyle of Switzerland. And only half or less is needed to maintain the ecology of Mauritania.
Thank
so we
you.
could invite another second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you got the point. And I hope that you can adopt this as a gift to Marcus, to this Marcus place. And one day, you see this guy, this Swiss fellow now is very famous. It's a marketing gag also. The university is known by this index. It's the foremost index about ecology in the world. But it's the misery index. So we could create the smile index. The smile factor, we have to put it into our considerations of life. Thank you for listening.